There's plenty of times where collaborations have just made it even worse. It's like you already had a fire burning. Did you really want to pour the vodka and gasoline on top? Hey neighbor, welcome back to Beyond ARTV. I've been thinking a lot recently about the rise of guest features in music, where an artist will hop on another artist's track, or maybe your favorite band collaborates with a solo artist or another band. It's definitely a lot more prominent and I guess obvious in the 21st century, especially when you can see the credits a lot more easily through places like Genius, Wikipedia, or right in front of your eyes on Spotify, Apple Music. It's become a lot more common to credit an artist instead of just with a feature. They might actually get the entire song co-billed to them. If you look to like a popular artist like Drake, it might be stylized that way as with this artist instead of featuring them. But either way, this dates back to the dawn of time, I'm sure. Not that I have personal recordings in my iPhone voice memos app of the cavemen and the other middle-aged people and everyone else that came before us singing, and I don't actually know where I'm going with that analogy, so I'm gonna end it there. What I'm trying to say is that collaboration is innate to humanity, so it's not surprising that many artists, especially in the age of the internet, are coming together more so than ever before, because it's easy to just sing a little idea into your phone, perhaps pop it into your editing software of choice. They get it and they can write over it, and you do it all with the magic of instant access. So again, collaboration, while not always in person, either way, it's happening more so than ever before. And before you get started with where you think I'm going with this, I am on the positive side of the spectrum with this topic. I absolutely love seeing some of my favorite artists or even musicians that I didn't necessarily expect to come together and make magic in the studio. I love when I see it come to fruition and it actually turns out. And of course, there's plenty of times where collaborations have just made it even worse. It's like you already had a fire burning. Did you really want to pour the vodka and gasoline on top? As I mentioned earlier in the video, collaboration is definitely something that comes naturally to us humans, and it dates back as far as we can possibly trace in the history of music. Collaboration is key. It's sometimes what unlocks you from writer's block, and you're saying, I don't know where to take this, and somebody else looks at it and says, what if we changed this melody here, or what if we added this lyric? Sometimes it's just that little nudge that makes something click. But starting in the 1950s and 60s, we started to see more vocal groups popping up. A lot of bands that started working with other people. And you think of a famous example, I say George Martin, aka the Fifth Beatle. He was their producer, but he was also able to mold and guide them when they were feeling a bit directionless. Now, collaborations as we know them, especially in like the mainstream Billboard Hot 100, the Top 40, whatever you want to call it, popular music in that field, I feel like the 21st century brought about huge changes there because of the commercial success, ironically enough, of boy bands. And the reason I say that is because at the end of, I guess, one millennium into another, it's the dawning of a new fresh fad, and we had the boy bands out here having multiple people. There were certain singers that would take on certain songs, and then like Justin Timberlake and NSYNC would have one, Joey Fatone gets another, and they traded around. And I think that that definitely piqued, I guess, general audience reception. It piqued their curiosity to the point where they're like, okay, I like when other people come in. And then I think early 2000s, a song by Usher, you've got Yeah, which to this day remains the #1 club anthem of all time. Lil Jon, Ludacris featured there, and I feel like that's around the time when the movement really shifted. You saw an artist like Gwen Stefani come in with her very successful solo debut, Love Angel Music Baby. There's a couple of features on there. I believe Slim Thug was on one, and there were a few others that I just thought were really interesting. Pharrell collaborating with her for Holla Back Girl. That time period also welcomed in the digital download phase, where iTunes was reigning supreme, and also the Zune store out there Shout out Microsoft, gang!
There are dozens of us. Dozens!
iTunes made it easy to have everything, including like the name of the song and the artist and the feature, whatever it was. Everybody was able to instantly know who was on that track, and maybe they wanted to hear more from that featured artist because they liked their voice, they liked the lyrics that they brought to the song. So collaborations became a little bit more obvious, and then people started seeing the dollar signs and went overboard, as does everything when money is up for grabs. With the rise of streamers in the 2010s, namely Spotify being the first one that really took off before it was rivaled by the likes of Tidal and Apple Music, who paired that with iTunes, I feel like streaming made it even easier because, as you can see, the timeline is adding up. For internet speeds getting better, people are connected quicker and faster, and also streaming is a thing now, so we can kind of release songs on our own, and we can also collaborate. There's no label necessarily dictating who we work with, so why not bring on our friend and fellow musician? I feel like you can at the very least tell when two artists really want to be working together, two or more I should say, and when they're just there because some label exec said, hey, these two artists are hot right now, what if we put them together? And I think of the example, I guess, on the weaker side of the spectrum. You've got Dua Lipa and Meghan Thee Stallion, two insanely big artists in the pop and rap market. You see them coming together for Sweetest Pie, and I think the results are extremely mediocre. I don't feel like the spirit and life was there. It was just kind of a stopgap in between both of those artists releasing one album into their next one. Outside of the worlds of pop and hip-hop, I do feel like this has become a lot more reoccurring in the world of alternative and rock as well. It feels like the barrier has been chipped away at, and while yes, I myself am guilty of preemptively getting mad if I see maybe a certain artist that I'm not really a fan of collaborating with someone, I think of an example like All Time Low and Blackbear. They collaborated on Wake Up Sunshine, the album. There was a track on there called Monsters. It ended up being a big hit for them. I'm sure many of you have heard it. And I felt like that track was actually pretty awesome, and I felt bad for prejudging it just based on the fact that it had that feature. So sometimes it can work out. Sometimes things can be good from artists that I don't necessarily think are very good, like Machine Gun Kelly and Halsey coming together for Forget Me Too. I know I've listed a lot of very mainstream examples, big names, big artists, and that's because I just wanted to give a very surface level, broad idea that anybody would probably at the very least recognize, because that is trickling down to the other genres, whether it be rock, alternative, electronic music. There's traces of it, and you see collaboration becoming a little bit more key and commonplace in those communities too. So I pass the question off to you guys. If you see your favorite artist, doesn't matter who it is, and they have a track list for their album, or maybe they reveal their new single, and you see a feature, do you look at that and say, I'm excited, or does it depend on the genre, or are you just kind of a little bit nervous because you don't think that they'll work well together?